Hey, how are you doing? This is Christian Keto with Pastor Scott Tom, and I want to talk to you today about my cross plan. And my cross plan is just an acronym that we use to get across the understanding of a biblical lifestyle, the quickest way to regain your health. And so if you're watching this for like, I want to lose some weight, I want to get my blood pressure down, I want to get rid of or help these inflammatory diseases, I want to fight or combat my diabetes, all these types of things, my acid reflux. There's so many benefits to this, and this is just, again, a kind of a nuance where people have discovered that, hey, this diet helps people. It's just a proper healthy way of eating. It's not a diet. You should be on a low carb or ketogenic diet because I think it is a biblical diet, and the ketogenic diet is narrowing that down and helps you to heal as fast as possible. So my cross plan, let's take the word cross and we're going to make an acronym out of that. So CROSS, each one stands for a different area that you can apply to your life. So if people are saying, hey, man, you're losing so much weight, you're looking so good, what are you doing? You just say, my cross plan. You can actually check it out at mycrossplan.com, where I put videos together and then a lot of the scientific data and the handouts there. And yeah, it does cost some, or you can watch these videos for free. That's fine. But that does help us out here at Cross Christian Fellowship and to get the word out. And in other areas, I'm a serial church planter. I train up men for ministry and have helped plant over 30 churches. So it's something this is something I do more on the side to help my church body and to help you. So let's get into it. My cross plan. So CROSS. C stands for cut out the Frankenstein oils. What is that? Cut out the so-called vegetable oils. Do you know they don't come from vegetables at all? These are mostly known as seed oils in the industry, but before that they were known as machine oils because they are so rancid when they are made that, stinky, gross. They were used to lubricate machines. I call them Frankenstein oils because, Frankenstein's monster is brought to life, but it's so unnatural because he's dead. He's sewn together from all these parts, right? So it's unnatural, and these are very unnatural oils because they're so highly processed. The best known among them is the canola oil. Now, there's not a canola seed. That's a category of seeds. And they use that as a category of seed because they don't want to call it what it really is. It comes from a plant that bears a rape seed, the rape plant. And I'm not saying grape, like with a G. Rape is in bad connotation, right? As in, you don't want that's a terrible name, right? But it is highly toxic to animals and they would miscarriage. And if they ate too much of it, they would die. Also for humans. So if you just ate it in its natural state, its toxicity is high, so it's a poison. Well, how does it go from being a poison to being in almost everything on your shelf? Because it's highly processed. So they'll take this oil and it's mostly made out of GMO seeds, so genetically modified seeds, because nobody's upset that they modify a flower and take the seeds, right? You don't hear about it, but most canola oils will make it out of a genetically modified seed. Now, if you go to health food stores, it's still highly processed, but they'll say it's non-GMO. Oh, okay. Well, that's only about 10% of what's on the market, 7% or so. But it is a rancid oil. It is toxic. It's highly processed. It's heated. It's hydrogenated. It's bleached. It's deodorized. It's perfumed. It's washed in detergent, and then it is honest to goodness, it's winterized. So let me go over this process. It's a long process. So you're taking these seeds, you got to grind them down. It's not like olive oil where you can have just a simple press and get it out, or that you would have an avocado press to get avocado oil. That's very natural, very simple for that to happen. But in this, they actually use they chop up or squeeze or cut up, or how you want to say it, into a very fine mulch, these seeds. But to extract most of the oil, they have to use a detergent solvent called hexane. Hexane itself is highly toxic and highly flammable. So you don't want to drink it. That itself will kill you. Then they have to put it under high heat and steam to eliminate the rancid odors. They have to denature it or winterize it, which removes a lot of the good parts of it, leaves a little bit of the omega-3 fatty acids, which are good, right? The omega-3 fats, but it leaves enough for them to call it a healthy oil, but it's not healthy oil, and it takes away a lot of the nutrients when they do that. Then you deodorize it. Well, how would you do that? You have to add some additive, like a perfume or something, to make it smell better. Then you've got to bleach it, and because it comes out this gray, ugly color, and you would not eat it. Just not. It'd be like, oh, that's gross looking. And then they put some artificial color in to make it look a little bit better after they bleach it. And do you know that if it's heated over and over and over, it makes a polymer. And so some biodegradable plastic bags are made out of this oil or these seed oils. So you can see that this is not very good. So this is something, I'm going to put them up here for you. What are the seed oils that you should cut out? C is cut out these Frankenstein seed oils: canola oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, and sunflower oil. And you might say, hey, but isn't like sunflower seeds good for you, or peanuts good for you? Yes, but not under using hexane and these other chemicals to process them. They are not good. So those are the ones you want to remove. What are the good ones? So if I take those all off, and I want you to go to your pantry, your cabinet, take those things out right now. Don't give them away. Throw them away. That immediately, if that's only one of the things that you do after watching this video, it's going to help you immensely. But there's a lot of good information coming. So replace this with olive oil or avocado oil or coconut oil or palm oil or ghee or butter. And so what does the C stand for? It stands for cut out the Frankenstein oils, right? Cut out these vegetable oils. They have nothing to do with vegetables. But that's just a marketing ploy that the Food and Drug Administration allow them to get away with because there's big money involved, I guess. I don't know any other reason why they would allow you to do that. Because if they said rapeseed oil, you'd be like, I don't think I want that, right? So R is for reduce the carbs. You kind of knew I was going there, right? Because we're talking about a low-carb diet, especially ketogenic diet, which is highly reduced in your carbs. So God said, hey, in Proverbs 25:16, he says, if you found honey, which is a carbohydrate, right? Sugars, it's a simple carbohydrate. It's a carb. He says, only eat as much as you need, lest you be filled with it and vomit. So don't overconsume it. How much do you need? Very little. You only need like about a teaspoon of sugar, give or take some, in your blood at any given time. And it doesn't need a ton coming in to maintain that. And so carbohydrates are basically sugars, right? You can get a complex carbohydrate, but they are sugar molecules that are chained together in 8, 10, 12, connections that they're just a complex carbohydrate. Your body just comes in with enzymes. It chops it up into simple carbohydrates. Takes a little longer. Then you have fibers, which are tougher, and our bodies don't have enough time. We don't have the proper gut to ferment them and take the carbohydrates out. So most fibers pass through you, and you don't get any sugar spike from that or insulin spike. So your body can make your own carbohydrates without taking them in. So they're not essential. How much do you need? About 1,500 to 2,500 milligrams is what your body makes, which is very, very small. So if you cut down to a ketogenic diet and you I'm only eating like 20 carbs a day, net carbs, that's why that's plenty fine for your body, right? But an overabundance, which is what we have in our standard American diet, it's terrible for you because it's spiking your insulin all the time. Your blood sugar goes up, right? Because you're eating all this high carbs, high fructose corn syrup, sugars, white rice, white flour. These things just spike you. These starchy vegetables just spike you. And your body has to release a ton of insulin to correct that, because you can get too much insulin in your system. You can go hypoglycemic or hyperglycemic, too low, too high, and it'll do a lot of damage to your body, and it can even kill you, right? So if you have hypoglycemia and your blood sugar goes too low, it'll kill you. But your body will never allow that, because if you have a halfway decent pancreas and liver, because it'll produce that even out of fat or protein. It can produce sugars for you out of those. It'll convert them over, and it'll work for a homeostasis. The problem is when you're eating all these carbs and you're carb loading, and you're not even a runner, a marathon runner, but you're just eating all these carbs because they tell you it's healthy for you. Your blood sugar's going like this. It's rocketing, and then it's plummeting, and you get the sugar crash, and then I got it hungry. Then you get this ravenous appetite, and I've got to eat all these things. Where if you're eating more protein and fats, it's at a very low, wavy motion that's keeping you balanced, and you're not having these super highs and lows, and you're not taxing your pancreas. When you tax your pancreas, all kinds of bad things begin to happen. So they're empty calories. So if we're on this standard American diet, or if you put the acronym together, SAD diet, then it raises insulin too long, and then your body becomes insensitive to it. So you have insulin resistance. Your body begins to say, hey, I'm not going to listen to this hormone. And you begin to damage your insulin receptors on your cells around your body. So so your body then begins to make more insulin because you're not listening to me, right? More and more insulin, and it loads for a longer time, not just a spike. It loads for a longer time, and that's where it becomes extremely dangerous, because then and that also is what stores fat, right? But it also raises your triglycerides, causes non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, and your liver is super important for your body. It's doing so many things. It causes you to have nutrient and vitamin deficiencies, leads to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer proliferation, because most cancers, they're finding out, run and they fuel on glucose and sugar. And there may be other triggers, right? Smoking, any toxins in your body can trigger cancer cells, or trigger your cell to become a cancer cell because it damages the mitochondria. However, this insulin that is in your body, one of the things it does is work with it causes inflammation in a good way, but if it's chronic and insulin's pegged, then you get a lot of your inflammatory diseases, and your joints get inflamed, and you get arthritis, and you hurt, and you just feel inflamed, and you get the bloating and the IBS and all these other things. So what do? Reduce your carb intake to about 20%. Not 20% is low carb. Ketogenic, you want to go to 5%, or about 20 carbs total. 20 carbs total. So some say, hey, total in your gross or everything you take in. Some say net, which is going to be your carbs minus the fibers and minus sugar alcohols. Okay, and But if that's not working for you, you may have to go total carbs. Net carbs generally works for most people, and that'll help you. Now, you optimize the protein is the third one. So CRO, and so it's cut out these Frankenstein oils that you want to reduce your carbs down to about 20 net carbs a day, and then you want to optimize protein because protein is good for you. God says eat it in abundance, eat as much as your heart wants. He actually says in Deuteronomy 12:15, he says, however, you may slaughter and eat meat within all your gates, whatever your heart desires, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. The unclean or the non-Jew or even the pagan, and the clean or the Jew may eat of it, including not just the ruminant animals like the cow and other like the goat stuff, but also that we would herd, right? But also the other ones like the gazelle and the deer or the ibex, different type of goat that's out there. So he says, if I bless you and you have a lot of this, eat as much as you want, as much as your heart wants. Because why can he say you can eat as much as you want? Because it's really hard to overeat meat. If you have a big ribeye in front of you and you start chowing down on that fat in that ribeye and the protein will satiate you and cause your hormones to tell you you're full rather than just your stretch receptors in your stomach. And so you can eat as much as you want, you just won't eat nearly as much as your eyes would want to or your taste buds would want to. You may overeat a little bit and then you'll push away and go, I'm full, that's it. So all this scare with red meats and, barbecuing your meat and it's going to give you cancer, none of that is scientifically proven with high science. It's associative. So, and a lot of this is coming from, I hate to say it, but kind of propaganda from vegans, vegetarians, and people who have an agenda of climate change. And so they're against cows farting. I'm for cows farting. I think, why should they be inhibited? Cows should be proud of their farts. So, it's so crazy, right? So they have an agenda behind this. So it's hard when this is coming in, but God says, eat it. Eat as much as you want. It is healthy for you. Why? Because you've heard of essential amino acids, right? They're essential because they're a building block for life. If that gets messed up, your body gets messed up. If you try to build your house with straw or build your house on sand instead of rock, it's bad, right? You can build like a hay house, I understand. But if you wanted to use timber and somebody replaced it, your studs, every other stud with straw, that house wouldn't stand, right? Not good. Why would you build your body with something other than the essential building blocks God designed you to have? So what meats can you have? Red meats, right? So you can have beef and lamb, and then you can have the white meats and the chicken. Limit your pork. We have the freedom to eat that, but eating too much pork will raise your triglycerides. Minimize that. So then eat the byproducts of these things. So milk and eggs are okay, and they're mentioned in Scripture too. This should be around 25% of your intake. You're going to need a little bit more as you get older. You're going to need more if you're bodybuilding. You're going to need less if you have a fairly sedentary life and you do a lot of sitting. But if you are a young adult and very active, you're going to need more. So adjust this. Don't be so hard and fast with it. Kind of adjust this to what you need. S is for savor healthy fats. Why do I put savor healthy fats? Because fats are healthy for you. Essential fatty acids, right? There's nothing called essential carbohydrates. There just isn't. There are essential minerals and vitamins that you can get from some of your vegetables that have carbohydrates. We'll talk about that in another video. But meat is one of the most nutritious things that you can have, and it's the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. Along with your meat, you're going to get fats. And these things are super important. God talks about fat, and he uses fat as a kind of symbol for good, like the fat of the land, the choice of the land, the best of the stock, or the pick of the litter. He uses that a number of places. You can do your own search on that. Pretty interesting that the fat is the choicest or the best for you. He tells you not to eat the visceral fat because that wouldn't be. Around the kidneys, around the stomach, a lot of toxins can leach in to the visceral fat. That's not something that you want to eat from these animals. But all the fat that goes into the meat, that rainbows or ribbons through the meat, good for you. It'll have some omega-3 and then a good portion of omega-6 as well as other fatty acids, which are your building block for your body. Think about it. Your body has 100 trillion plus cells in your body. Now, each one of those cells has to use cholesterol or a fat to make a permeable membrane around your cell. Every one of your cells needs cholesterol. We're going to talk about the cholesterol is not the bad guy everybody thinks it is. It's so important for your health. It's part of your immune system. And one of the reasons it's an essential building block and healthy for your life is because there are what is called essential nutrients and vitamins like your A, your D, your E, your K. These are all fat soluble, so they need the fat to work and to get into your cells. So if it's not mixed with the fat, even if you take a supplement, not very little is going to get into your system, right? The cholesterol, the fat, is a big part of your hormonal system, which uses a lot of your protein, but your sex hormones, like your estrogen, your testosterone, is almost 100% fat. And yeah, so you need that to make babies, right? And for a lot of functions in your body, like your heart regulation, it's important. So what do I take for fat? If you got your 5% or so of your carbohydrates, 25% or so of protein, then how much of my savory fat am I going to have? What's left? 70%. 65 to 70%. God, that seems like a lot, doesn't it? You're like, I'm just going to have this tub of butter. I'm just going to eat my butter, I'm going to eat a tub of lard. No, actually, if you use just a little bit of butter, like a tab of butter when you're cooking, tab of butter on your vegetables love to soak in that butter. Your broccoli, you use some avocado oil, you make your own dressing with olive oil on your stuff. You'll be surprised if you track that and you're like, I'm not really sure how much I need. Use something like Carb Manager to track this, and you'll be surprised. A little bit of oil goes a long way, and you get to that 70%, 65% very quickly. And it's healthy for you, and it tastes good, doesn't it? Lastly is sustainable exercise. Scripture says in 1 Timothy 4:8 that bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness is profitable for all things, having a promise in the life that now is and that which is to come. So does exercising help you in the future kingdom? No, you're going to get a new body, right? But now it'll help you, but it only helps a little bit. And scientists have seen that you can exercise all day long and it has a detrimental effect, right? If you exercise too much, your body doesn't have enough time to have the reparative functions in your other parts of your body. It's always putting all energy into repairing your muscles. Yes, human growth hormone comes up, certain endorphins come up. It is helpful. It does profit, and you should do some. However, you can't outrun a bad diet, they say. So if you're eating the carbs and you're saying, I'm just going to run it off, you're still spiking your insulin and doing all that damage. You can be pre-diabetic or diabetic and be a runner. There are many of them. You can be skinny and be diabetic because of what you're eating. And no amount of running or exercising or lifting is going to cure that. It'll help, but you got to eat right. Okay, once you are eating right, the benefits then really kick in for exercising. How much should you do? What is sustainable? And you don't need a ton. Unless I really love running, Pastor Scott, then run. I'm not going to say it, but it has to do with the woods. Run, right? If you want to run, it's good. If you want to lift, if you have a very active schedule, if you have a very labor-intensive work, great, it's good for you. Eat healthy, and then you get the benefit from that. What are some of the benefits? Well, we mentioned one, the human growth hormone coming up. But one of the other things is it'll help your body come to a homeostasis. If you exercise a little bit and allow its rest day to recover, then the body and the insulin resistance will reverse itself and you become more insulin sensitive. It'll help with that area, but it will also do things like help immediately with the non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome. It'll clean up your liver. It's one of the best ways to detoxify your liver. You're supposed to drink that, do that. Hey, if you have a fast day and you exercise, you can clean up your liver in just a couple days, honestly. It happens really fast. So what are the acronyms stand for again? What do they talk about? Cut your machine oils or your Frankenstein oils. Reduce your carbs down to about 5% or under 20 net carbs. Then you want to optimize your protein, get that to about 25%. Eat good meats, good eggs, good other protein that can come into your diet that's meat-based. You want to then savor healthy fats because the omega-6 aren't all bad. Omega-3s are great. Eat your fish. It has a lot of that omega-3 in there. Kind of everybody knows that now. And then sustainable exercise, which would be if you're walking your dog, do that. If you want to add exercise later, great. When you're first starting off on this diet, don't add anything more than what you're doing. Matter of fact, for the first 3 to 4 weeks, you may want to just kick back. If you've not fat adapted and you are insulin, resistant, then your hyperinsulinemia is going to be a detriment. You're not going to feel energy for a few days to a few weeks to sometimes a few months, depending on how sick you are. And so we want you to get better. You can do this. It's really easy. CROSS, mycrossplan.com. This is Pastor Scott saying, love you, see you next time, right? All right. Bye-bye.